That fence and cabin were mine. Susan's shrill voice from the HOA board cut through the humid Texas air as she jabbed her finger at my property line like she was launching an attack. I'd barely unloaded my moving boxes when I spotted my grandmother's handcrafted log cabin reduced to splintered rubble. The sturdy wooden fence that had guarded our land for 3 decades lay shattered like fractured limbs. But what that woman didn't know was that the crude road she'd slashed through my property cut right into the core of the natural gas pipeline network, supplying her pristine HOA enclave. And what I never anticipated was that I'd twist that valve, not purely for vengeance, but because a boundary had been violated that transcended mere fences and cabins. This wasn't about land, Anna Maria, it was about control, endurance, and self-respect. And this time, no one was emerging untouched. The reality of it all will knock the wind out of you. The scorching Texas sun beat down like an open oven as I stepped from my truck, gazing at the wreckage of my inheritance. Just days earlier, I'd been Alex Stone Ramirez, a pipeline engineer in Houston, grieving my grandmother Sophia, who'd raised me after my parents' accident. Now, I stood on 5 acres meant for a new beginning, staring at devastation that made a hurricane look tame. The cabin where Sophia taught me to carve wood was scattered debris. The fence marking our boundaries for 30 years resembled a battlefield casualty. Susan Blackwell stood there in spotless white riding boots that screamed excess, her auburn hair immaculate despite the 95-degree swelter. Flanked by 2 HOA board members clutching clipboards like weapons, she declared with unyielding authority, "This whole setup was erected without HOA approval. The fence breaches setback rules, and that cabin was never vetted by the architectural committee. We had full rights to clear these infractions for vital community upgrades." The vital upgrade was a dirt path from her sprawling cattle ranch straight through my yard to the highway, shaving 15 minutes off her commute. "Ma'am, this land's been ours since 1987. I replied evenly, channeling Sophia's lessons in composure. The cabin was my grandfather's handiwork. I presented the deed and surveys, but Susan dismissed them like spam. "Your grandmother ignored protocols when we integrated this area into HOA guidelines in 2019. All must adhere, no exceptions for legacy claims." Her legalese flowed rehearsed, yet her fidgeting eyes and shaky grip hinted at deeper unease. What truly alarmed me wasn't her jittersit, was the yellow utility flags dotting the site, screaming warnings to any pipeline pro like me. The markers signaled natural gas lines, and the digs had skimmed perilously close to a major junction. My 15 years engineering gas systems turned this from a land spat into a catastrophe waiting to explode. Susan figured she was strong-arming a bereaved nobody, but she'd toyed with enough pressurized gas to flatten half the county. "You need to grasp this," Susan pressed, advancing with the bully's swagger of assumed dominance. "Our HOA speaks for 47 families. We won't let nostalgia block advancement. This road links us to key services. Dispute it with our lawyers who filed all the paperwork." She waved at the mess like a proud remodel, but the sloppy digs without utility checks had churned soil around gas markers in ways that set my instincts ablaze. I retreated to my truck and unlocked Sophia's metal box, her deathbed instruction echoing, "Open it only here." Sophia was always precise with records, but cryptic about the land. Inside weren't just deeds, easement pacts, utility grants, and a map tracing the gas lines under Susan's road. Sophia hadn't bequeathed mere acres. She'd handed me oversight of the gas easement fueling Susan's whole neighborhood, including emergency shutoff powers from our family's original deal. For 30 years, she'd maintained access, pocketed fees, and logged every infraction. Susan's project wasn't trespass, it was a federal breach risking charges. Studying the map, I saw why Susan coveted this spot. Not just a shortcut, but mastery over a gas hub that could skyrocket or tank property values. She didn't know Sophia had outplayed her, amassing a legal arsenal. As I eyed the fresh gouges over the pipeline hub, I knew Susan's troubles were dawning. What she ignored was that her bulldozer had grazed the main line powering her community. But I knew those pipes intimately. I'd co-designed this network 15 years back. Next morning, I met Linda Wong, the town lawyer Sophia mentioned in her last note. Her office perched above the hardware store on Main, and the 60-something with keen eyes and a kind grin evoked Sophia. Your grandmother was my closest ally, Linda said, motioning to a faded leather seat. She prepped for 5 years against what hit yesterday. Sophia foresaw Susan's grab, arming you. Linda unveiled a hefty file dwarfing my docs, 1,987 utility deals, gas firm letters, and photos of Susan's prior neighbor Rex. Susan wasn't always this ruthless. Linda poured coffee from an ancient pot. 2 decades ago, as Susan Hargrove, her folks lost their farm to corporate legalese they couldn't decode. It shattered her. Instead of building alliances, she vowed to dominate. I grasped Susan's mindset, making her deeds more chilling. Mike Harlan stomped up the stairs in boots, hands trembling as he took coffee. A 20-year local builder, he glanced out like Susan might materialize. Alex, Susan warned all us contractors yesterday, if we touch your place, she'll bury us in complaints, kill our gigs countywide. She's tied to inspectors, permits, everything. Mike's dread showed Susan's reach sprawled beyond HOA. Linda detailed the easements. My grandfather's 1987 pact let lines cross our land for fees and shut-off rights on hazards. Sophia kept it from Susan, smirking in her game. The valve sat in concrete near Susan's road, and digs within 50 feet justified cutoff per feds. But specs revealed Susan's work had wrecked the pressure regulator, a hazard demanding action. Susan's hubby owned Blackwell Power Solutions, skimping inspections for years. No one had the chops or standing to call it. Mike's photos nailed it. Mangled regulator, scars and no-dig zones. Susan urging, push on, permits later. This eclipsed property lives hung in balance. Calling the safety hotline, Susan answered. Pipeline Safety, Susan Blackwell. As liaison for her hubby's firm, she'd logged her own violation. My reg expertise ensured it stuck. The HOA meeting Thursday felt like a kangaroo court. Susan summoned an emergency on safety threats, packing the center with 47 owners clutching her smear emails, painting me as an obstructive interloper. Buzzing lights hummed as Susan, in a navy blazer, gripped papers like ammo. Folks, one man's ego endangers us all, she boomed, politician slick. Murmurs agreed, but some faces doubted. My digs uncovered Blackwell's 17 violations in 3 years. Unfiled road permits expired months ago. I get Mr. Ramirez is upset over that relic cabin. Susan patronized, flashing skewed photos making it a hazard. But feelings don't trump codes protecting values. I rose, docs and phone ready. Silence fell. Thanks for safety concerns, but facts are missing. At the podium, Susan stiffened. Cabin permitted 1987, grandfathered 2019. Fence on liner removals theft, $8,000. Projecting Mike's pics, wrecked regulator, Susan directing through flags. Gasps erupted, explosion risks. Federal crimes, $2 million fines. Susan paled, then snarled. Fakes. Scare tactics from a sore loser. But I played the call, her voice confirming receipt. Eyes drilled Hershey'd birth and buried the mess. Morning after, official trucks rolled in. From my RV, I saw a county inspector in Fed suits, Susan smirking with files. Emergency check on hazards, inspector barked. Feds probed my complaint, but Susan crowed. Real threats are his illegal ties, terror vows. Her counters, condemn RV, seize via eminent domain for safety. Sophia's whisper hit. Stone, if cabin falls, check fireplace stones. Amid chaos, I probed ruins, finding a tube behind loose rock. Bribery pics, fraud letters, recordings of Susan's decade-long land grabs via fake complaints, forcing sales cheap. A tape, Susan plotting post-Sophia, manufacture violations, backdate permits. This wasn't theft, it was syndicate crime masked as civic duty. As Susan paraded eminent domain docs signed by commissioners, deeming my land hazardous for seizure, I felt the state's crush. But engineering taught failure points. Blackwell skimped. Regulator damage, a true emergency. At the valve, I announced, recording. As licensed engineer, citing violations, I'm shutting flow. Twist gas halted. Silence, then chaos. Neighbors' calls as appliances died. Susan blanched. You can't cripple us. Elders, kids, meds. Her restore bid flopped, expired certs barred them. Feds eyed Blackwell's lapses. By noon, her ranch went dark, ironic. Her safety, weapon boomeranged. Investigation snowballed. My live stream hit thousands, airing Sophia's proof, bribes, insider highway tips for profits. Viewers swelled to 12,000, sharing HOA horrors. Neighbors arrived, not for Susan, but answers. Her confession cracked. Yes, I wrecked it all for Highway Ganger Land's $4 million jackpot. She fingered officials like Robert Hayes for leaks, bribes via contracts. Arrest flew Susan cuffed, Hayes detained. Gas returned post reforms. New leaders like Mike. Victim payouts. Transparent road. Community rebuilt on trust, not terror. Sophia's land taught. Justice waits, but hits hard. Was shutting gas vigilante overreach or righteous stand? You decide power's illusion when truth ignites.